I think he is a threat to democracy.
Really?
I think that he led an attempted coup in this country.
Racist! He's a white supremacist! He's an insurrectionist!
You know, he said he wanted to suspend the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election.
Now, a lot of Democrats are upset that someone is challenging Joe Biden, which is weird because they're always talking about how democracy is in peril. Now this guy's like, well, I'll run too. And they're like, no, we don't mean democracy in the Democratic Party.
At the least, that's just not a patriotic thing to say.
I don't believe that.
He absolutely said that on
I will
Truth
look
Social.
that up.
He hates Mexicans and he says they're pissed and he hates black people!
He did.
He wanted to suspend the Constitution.
He said we should suspend the...
What's going on, guys? So today we got to talk about Charlamagne, the Trump deranged, because this guy always seems like he has a bone to pick with Trump and always wants to call him a threat to democracy, even though the Democrats are the ones who wanted to take Trump, remove him from the ballot. They got him in all of these ridiculous court cases. They did not hold a fair primary. You know, they pretty much rigged it in favor of Joe Biden. They did the same thing back in 2020 against Bernie Sanders. And they did the same thing back in 2016 with Hillary Clinton, right? This is according to numerous sources, including insiders like Tulsi Gabbard, who used to work for the DNC. Okay, so we know that the Democrats are corrupt. And even Charlamagne has confirmed this himself, that he noticed that they appear to not want to hold primaries and have democracy for them. But for some reason, he loves to hold Donald Trump to a different standard. Again, even though Donald Trump hasn't technically done anything wrong, they keep trying to call this thing a coup or insurrection, which there's a myriad of evidence, including on my own channel, a whole playlist I did about the J6 protest / riot, whole playlist where I went over excruciating detail of everything that transpired on that day, before that day, after that day, so forth. So check that out if you have not seen that already. But without further ado, I want to react to what Charlamagne is saying on Fox and Friends. He joins a group that is not the Five necessarily, but it's a group of people who essentially work for Fox News, and they're going back and forth about whether or not Trump's a threat to democracy or not. It's pretty interesting, so let's get into it.
If Trump returns to the White House, you can kiss these freedoms goodbye that we all take for granted. And elections, forget about it. Do we want him running this country and saying, I'm not leaving, I'm dictator for life? It's the only way to preserve our freedoms and hold on to our humanity is to vote for Joe Biden for president. We're trying to be gentlemen in this world. The Democrats, you are gangsters.
Excuse me.
You are gangsters. You're washed up.
That would be a compliment to me, Tyrus, if De Niro called me a gangster.
Yeah, he's the leading expert in every theatrical film. It's either him or Joe Pesci. I got that pretty much on lock. But this goes back to my point. Who is he speaking to?
Yeah.
He's speaking. It's the echo chamber. And the argument that everyone's holding, even when Bill Maher was on, the argument that they're really holding on to, he's not going to release power. As if this isn't the United States of America. Our military is number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. He would around and find out real quick. If I'm not leaving, the same guys that protect him will be the same ones in handcuffs walking his ass out. That's not how this country works. It's ridiculous. And I know maybe I was the only one there. He's already been president and lost, and he was out.
Yeah.
And even
this is one of the things that kind of grinds my gears about the Trump deranged folks like Charlamagne the dope. Okay, like basically Trump literally left office when it was time to leave. They're trying to act like he didn't. Like he just said, no, I'm not leaving. And then like a bunch of people in the military were like, we stand behind Trump. And they just raised their guns up at everybody or something. And like they forcefully tried to take power. That would be an actual insurrection. But what transpired is an election challenge and numerous election challenges in a variety of different states. And then a riot at the Capitol that people claim Trump led, which he didn't. Right. And then after that, they just threw out the word insurrection and stuck to it ever since. And even the fake news on all these different news channels, they love to go off about it like a politician says like one thing wrong, but they've been blaming Russia and calling this thing an insurrection for years. And that is literally fake news. That is straight up a lie, but they tell it all the time anyway. And they're allowed to just essentially get away with telling lies, but they want to try to hold other people accountable if they like make a mistake and say one thing wrong. And it's just ridiculous.
stuff, and he had every right, in my opinion, to question things. When you spend, and like I said, I always look at it from my own perspective. Whenever I had a job or I was someplace where I was doing well, but everyone around me was like, he wasn't the plan, or I don't want him here. So, and I'm always hearing things, and if they made a Russian, the whole thing, a whole fake thing, and all the fake things they were doing, and the 2 ridiculous impeachments, and then I lose the election, just as natural, just as a human being, you're going to be like, the system that's been trying to kick me out the whole time, this dude who all of a sudden got 81 million votes, you're going to have a natural, like, this is BS, that any other person would do who was in his situation.
Yeah.
But it didn't matter how he felt, because Pence was like, you got to go. And that was it. So
I've never seen another president try an attempted coup of this country, though.
Well, neither did I. I saw a president who was pissed off and lost the game, just like when my team loses.
But
he lost, he didn't care. He said bad things. He made dumb statements. But if he was making a coup, we would have seen it.
But those dumb statements riled people up and did cause them to go rush, the
Well,
Capitol.
he did say protest peacefully, and it's a lousy coup if you don't have any guns.
He handled January 6th about as bad as you possibly could.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. But as far as that's what they're holding on.
I totally disagree with that. I feel like people need to push back harder on this because Trump authorized National Guard. He was just very prepared in general for there to be a potential riot. He told people to go there peacefully, right? And they did, right? It was the Capitol Police that kind of instigated things further, right? Nancy Pelosi is the one who refused to move the now authorized National Guard from their post over to the Capitol, right? Trump literally responded with tweets saying like, hey, it's time to calm down and go y'all's butts home. But the fake news ignored that, right? And eventually they banned his account, right? So you couldn't even see the stuff that was on his account. Like, it was just totally banned account, right? So Donald Trump, in my view, did what he was supposed to do, which is one of the reasons why the impeachment against him failed. I actually think Republicans are fair enough to where if he actually did a real insurrection, they will feel threatened too. Like, who wouldn't feel threatened by a real insurrection, even if it's by the political party you support? Because you're like, wait a minute, this guy, if they really take over control of government, then they could be against me, even if I'm on the same political party. Like, nobody wants a true dictator in the White House. So the fact that people act like this is some sort of real thing that occurred, where it's some sort of real insurrection or a real coup, including Charlamagne the dope, Charlamagne the shill, Charlamagne the fake news reality denier, it doesn't make any sense.
When we literally have groups now busting into any government building and demanding this, demanding that, and they're not treating the same thing. They didn't have to hire a team from Hollywood to tell us a story. Truth comes out. You don't need fancy camera angles and this, that, whatever. January 6th was ugly. It was stupid. But it wasn't to the level. That's all they're running on. Where the rest of us are like, yeah, it happened. It sucked. What about my eggs at $8? What about my gas prices? What about my kids getting good schools?
Imagine, and Hillary Clinton's one piece of advice for Joe Biden when it was so close in the closing days of the 2020 election, she was, whatever you do, don't concede. That was her advice to Joe Biden. She said, the worst thing I ever did was concede to Donald Trump. She didn't have any power, and she still can't let go of it. Imagine if she won in 2016. But then lost to Trump in 2020. She's the one who would still be barricaded behind the Resolute desk, wrapped in Kevlar and snotty tissues. Like, she's...
I mean, exactly. Hillary Clinton literally never won to begin with, and all she did was blame Russia for her loss, and she never accepted the loss. And now you got a bunch of fake news on TV. Like, I just did a video with Caitlin Collins versus Ted Cruz, and they're literally trying to sit up here just blaming Trump for not wanting to accept the election results of 2020. But Hillary Clinton, like, literally 8 years later, still has not accepted her L to Donald Trump, because basically everybody was telling her it was in the bag. She was going to win. There was no way she was going to lose to this clown, this TV reality host. Like, his hair looks funny, like he's orange, like whatever they had to say. She ended up losing anyway. And was it humiliating? Of course. But at the same time, she is one of the classic examples of an election denier. But guess what the news media does? Fake news. They literally pretend as though that never happened. Like, they just want to hold Trump and the Republicans to like some standard that they've never held anyone to on the Democrat Party side, between her, Stacey Abrams, Al Gore, and many others. they always want to actually believe. They not only believe them when they say the elections were stolen, the Democrats that is, they literally feed into the lies. They fed into the Russia lies in the election being stolen lies, or the voter suppression lies. All right, it's whenever the Democrats lose, but when the Republicans lose, then it's like, oh yeah, it was the most fair election in history. Like, it's so many cuss words I want to call you if you try to call the 2020 election the most fair election in history, when something that has never been done before was done, which is all these ridiculous mail-in votes, people counting votes days later, a week later. And to call it the most fair election in history has got to be one of the stupidest, most disingenuous things I've ever heard in my life.
Let the record show, I totally agree with Robert De Niro. I am one of those people that suffer from Trump derangement syndrome. I think he is a threat to democracy.
Really?
I think that he led an attempted coup in this country. You know, he said he wanted to suspend the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election. At the least, that's just not a patriotic thing to say.
I don't believe that.
He absolutely said that on
I will
Truth
look
Social.
that up.
He did.
He wanted to suspend the Constitution?
He said we should suspend the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election. He said it on Truth Social, then said he didn't say it. So
This is one of the most stupidest lies that I've ever heard anybody tell. Okay, so I did a video about this already, but I'll quickly brief for anybody who has not seen it. There was a Truth Social post where Donald Trump was complaining about the election results and saying that to certify the 2020 election results would be akin to suspending the Constitution. Okay, so he's basically calling the 2020 election a farce and anti-constitutional, and then they take that as Trump saying he wants to suspend the Constitution. These people are idiots. This is what Trump derangement looks like when a guy says A, he says ABC, and you hear XYZ. Classic Trump derangement, which is why it takes Charlamagne seriously. Like, nobody should be taking this guy seriously. Okay, he doesn't want to endorse Joe Biden because he knows he's a clown, but at the same time, he wants to be his freaking cheerleader constantly by going out here and demonizing Donald Trump with literal lies. Like, if you don't believe the thing about the Constitution, if you have questions about it, definitely look that up. But I'm telling you, I've already looked into it, and what I'm saying is actually true because I actually read into what Trump was saying. I didn't just think the worst possible, craziest thing. And yes, it can be misinterpreted if you're Trump deranged. It can absolutely be misinterpreted, which is exactly what Charlamagne the Dope did.
Listen, I read Project 25. I'm one of those guys that's like, I don't know if he will necessarily leave. I hope he does, as you said.
I think even if I think this happens more with our presidents than I think, because now we can see everything, and Trump made everything so transparent because he was on TV every day and everyone was watching the camera.
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet. And again, I'm not justifying the bad behavior of January 6th, but I'm willing to bet every president, when he got the note that he was when he was out, they were calling everybody like, can we fix this? Are we sure? Mm-hmm. And I think just given the fact that Biden's biggest claim to fame was he got to be Barack Obama's VP. And it was more of I voted for Barack twice. I voted for Trump. Looks like it's going to be 3 times now. But the point is like, it was the greatness of Barack that helped him over. Now that there's no more Barack, this is all Biden's presidency, and it's been embarrassing.
A disaster.
So people are like, are we willing to go back to a poor sport who at least was getting our taxes right, or a wandering fool who's letting the worst part of the Democratic Party get their stuff past him because he doesn't have the...
Neither. We deserve better. The American people deserve better from both parties.
I'm not running, though. All right, we got to move on.
Right shoes.
There would be no women in your cabinet.
I'll have you know, I have lots of women in my cabinet.
Guys, like, why did they even bring this clown on freaking Fox? Like, Charlamagne is getting too much airtime these days, okay? Like, this guy never has anything worthwhile to contribute. Instead of actually listening what Trump says at any of his rallies, right, or asking him directly, like, I don't know if Charlamagne has ever invited Trump to his show. Maybe he has, right? But instead of actually having a conversation and listening to what Trump says, there's literally countless hours of Trump speaking and interviewing and podcasting, so forth, whatever it is, where he directly addresses anything that he's ever supported, any criticisms of him, right? Instead of doing that, you want to take a Truth Social post and then harp on the fact that, oh, he wants to suspend the Constitution. This is like one of the most ridiculous lies that I see being propagated by the fake news. And the fact that Charlamagne the God has essentially become an arm of the fake news of the DNC is just pathetic, because he also acknowledges, and he has in many videos before, that he feels like the Democrats honestly don't really fulfill their promises. They don't really do the things that they claim that they're going to do. However, he still believes the propaganda against the Republicans, and particularly against Donald Trump. And then he tries to say, oh, he's not a Democrat. Between guys like Charlamagne and Don Lemon, oh, I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Democrat. Yes, the hell you are, man. If nothing else, you believe all the Democrat propaganda, so it effectively makes you a de facto Democrat. If you believe everything that they say and you believe nothing that the Republicans say, then if nothing else, you certainly have a Democrat lean. You lean and have a bias toward the Democrats. It doesn't matter if you want to claim your crew or not, that's still your crew. Right? So this guy, I've really had enough of freaking Charlamagne. He needs to either get his facts. People need to be like, press him harder. If I were to ever attend this show, I would press him on, hey, have you ever even had the conversation or asked any real questions or really been challenged on your views? Because it's like they kind of challenge him, but they're not pressing him on it. It's like, dude, I literally have researched every single talking point that this dude has, and none of them have any weight to them whatsoever. It's pure Trump derangement, and he even admitted it himself. So if you know that that's what you have, maybe you need to get your head examined. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I appreciate you watching the Black Anomaly Rising channel. I'm out.
Stop it. Get some help.